early relationships. How do we develop an ability to think in complex ways, manage moral dilemmas, and motivate ourselves and others? This book tries to explain some of the key ideas about how we become ourselves. It includes recent studies that are still ongoing and some of the really classic experiments. From babyhood to adulthood, it aims to weave together cutting-edge research, everyday experience, and clinical examples. Draw a blob of lipstick on the nose of a child who is younger than about 18 months and show them their reflection in a mirror, and they tend to reach out to touch the reflected red dot or even search behind the mirror for the other child. From about 18 months, children reach to touch their own nose instead, understanding that the image in the mirror shows a reflection, the beginnings of a sense of identity. How does this rudimentary sense of self develop into the ability to have existential crises at 3 a.m. as we try to work out who we are and what we are doing? And does our identity really get fixed in adolescence, or do we have the potential to change? Baby monkeys separated at birth from their real mothers will prefer to be with a cloth-covered soft dummy mother than with a harsh wire monkey that they can't cuddle, even when the wire mother is the one with a milk bottle. Before the classic study that established this paradox, affection and closeness were thought to be unimportant for parenting. This study and others revealed that love is as much a primary need as food. The types of bonds we develop with our caregivers as children are key to our ability to develop as adults, and they influence the way we approach romantic relationships later on. Understanding this can radically change the way we understand ourselves and our interactions with others. I've divided this book into chapters based on different areas of development, so it isn't chronological but organised by topic. Each chapter goes through some of the most significant experiments in that field and shows how they contribute to our understanding of who we are as adults. For many of the topics, I've interviewed some of the experts to get their points of view, and I've included more recent studies too, to try to give you an overview of where the current understanding has reached. If you want to skip ahead to a different chapter, you can. Each one can be listened to as a standalone piece in its own right. This book is far from a parenting guide or child psychology textbook. It's written for anyone who's interested in how our childhood can affect our adulthood. Having said that, parents or those working professionally with children might find it doubly interesting to think both about their own development and about that of the children they are raising or working with. Ultimately, to understand a bit more about what goes on in the landscape of childhood gives us a better chance of understanding who we are now. This book aims to be a roadmap to the bits of your development you probably don't even know about. Bon voyage. Chapter 1. Before we are even born. The developing fetus floats about in amniotic fluid like a tiny astronaut. There in the dark, no smells or tastes, it is increasingly sensitive to sounds, tactile sensations, and its mother's emotions. It's hard to imagine what it must be like for it as it grows into an entity with awareness. What starts as a blob of cells transforms into a mini person, all happening there in the water-cushioned darkness. Our baby brains are built while we are in the womb. What begins as a 3 mm long neural tube develops into a brain with 10 billion brain cells or neurons and 100 trillion connections. Every minute that we are in the womb, 250,000 neurons are being created. Neurogenesis, or the birth of brain cells, continues long after our own birth. The connections between brain cells also continue to be formed and pruned for years after we emerge. As the fetus floats, brain cells are created, move through the fetal brain to the area where they need to be, and once in situ, start to change into the type of neuron needed in that specific brain region. They begin to connect with other cells around them until they're part of a massive web of brain cells. This phenomenal process happens so quickly that it resembles the spread of a rampant plant like bindweed or Japanese knotweed. Between 20 and 40 weeks old, our brain grows as much in size as it does from when we are born.